Lertay. The roars of the ocean and crashing of waves on the shoreline was an indispensable sight in Wama, most especially for the fishermen. The men of Wama were known for their fishing ability, and it was their tradition to initiate young boys into fishing by performing a special celebration. The celebration involved the young boys taking a canoe deep into the ocean to enable them master the way of the ocean and fight off any form of fear. Lertay, a young boy in the village, enjoyed this festival. While he was underage, he liked watching the initiation ceremony alongside his father, hoping for when it would be his turn. But as he grew up to the age of initiation, he developed a sudden fear. Not knowing what he would encounter out there in the ocean, while growing up, Lertay's grandmother used to tell him about the existence of creatures out there in the ocean. On one such occasion, Lertay's grandmother had told him that some of those creatures were very deadly and hated humans. She told him that they were always ready to kill humans. However, she also told him that there were also the good ones that blessed humans, but the possibility of meeting the good ones was never a common fit. Lertay never attached any importance to those stories. He thought of them as mere myths passed on from one generation to the next. But as he became of age and the festival drew near, he developed a sudden fear. What if the stories his grandmother had told him were true? What if he encounters a monster out there in the ocean? The uncertainty of what was out there in the ocean lingered in his mind as he counted days to the ceremony. Also of the same age as Lertay was Aikyle. Aikyle was Lertay's friend. Unlike Lertay, Aikyle was confident and expectant towards the ceremony. He couldn't wait to partake in the initiation ceremony and looked forward to it in anticipation, hoping to dominate his counterparts. After all, he appeared to be the bravest amongst his mates. Aikyle knew this and often teased his mates of their weakness, including his friend Lertay. "Once you see the mighty waves building up in the ocean, I know you'll pee on your pants," he taunted Lertay, who nursed his silent fear and shrugged off Aikyle's downgrading jokes. "I'm just curious about what could be out there. My grandmother used to tell me lots of stories about sea creatures." Lertay muttered to his friend, fear clogging his voice. "You mean sea creatures like mermaids?" Aikyle cut in, laughing off the fear in Lertay's voice. "Those creatures can't do me any harm," he boasted as he looked forward to the ceremony. "Any sea creature that dares me shall feel my fury," he said while showing off his muscles. The day of the ceremony finally came. All the villagers gathered by the seashore. Drums echoed in the background as the boys to be initiated were asked to come out and stand in front of the crowd as it was the tradition of the village. Lertay's father, being a chieftain, was the one that kicked off the initiation. He asked the boys to kneel down as he prayed for the boys to go and return safely. After the prayer, the boys were asked to go into the canoes in pairs. Lertay and Aikyle, being friends, entered the same boat. Lertay felt courageous and relieved because his friend, the bravest amongst their age grade, happened to be his partner in the initiation ceremony. Lertay's fear briefly vanished. The villagers chanted songs of encouragement as the boys slowly faded into the ocean. At the ocean, each pair sailed in different directions as they casted their nets to catch fishes. Returning home with fishes signified the completion of the initiation, and returning without fishes brought disgrace and shame. Many pairs had caught fishes and were getting ready to return to the village. Meanwhile, the pair of Lertay and Aikyle was unable to get fish. Frustration set in as the other pairs one after the other returned to the village. In order not to return home empty-handed and face humiliation, Lertay and Aikyle decided to go even further into the ocean. They toiled as they casted their nets again and again. Sweats making stripes on their skin, yet they caught no fishes. After long hours of toiling, they got tired. Aikyle demonstrated his frustration by hitting hard on the boat. Meanwhile, Lertay's fear gradually crept in. They had stayed too long in the ocean. Back in the village, worry registered on the faces of the villagers. Everyone that went to the ocean had returned except Aikyle and Lertay. The villagers anxiously waited as they hoped for the boys to return safely. Lertay and Aikyle had lost hope of returning home with any fish. For Lertay, he was ready to return home and face the shame instead of staying out there in the uncertainty of the ocean. But his partner wasn't ready to take any form of humiliation. He was the bravest and couldn't accept being a coward after boasting to everyone of how triumphant he would be at the initiation ceremony. He had arrogantly belittled everybody, telling them that he was the strongest. The waves tossed their boat under the orange sky as the water clashed on the corner of the boat. Aikyle, not ready to give up, insisted that they let down the net for the last time. Just then, a swarm of fish magically entered their net as though some mystical force had commanded the fishes to appear. Feeling elated that they wouldn't go home empty-handed, they began to pull the net as fast as they could. As they continued to pull the net, they noticed a shimmering light shining through the crystal-clear water. On seeing this, Lerte stopped pulling as chills ran through his spine. "I have a bad feeling about this. I think we should leave the net and go home," he said. But Aikyle, curious to see what was shining under the water, insisted that they continue pulling the net. "Whatever that is, has met the wrong guy," he muttered. The net got heavier as they pulled until the water exposed the shiny scaly tail of a mermaid. Lerte and Aikyle's net had accidentally caught a mermaid. As the water exposed the beautiful face of the mermaid, Lerte and Aikyle were left in awe. Her beauty was unearthly, her silky face was captivating as the water dripped down her face. Fear instantly gripped Lerte. "We should put her back in the water," his voice shaking between words. "No, we can't," Aikyle said huskily. "If we take her to the village, we will be honored amongst men and we shall be crowned with the best fisherman title amongst our peers," he added. Without arguing further, Lerte succumbed to Aikyle and they pulled the mermaid into the boat. As they pulled her into the boat, Lerte noticed that she was badly wounded on her tail, which made her unconscious. "Look," Lerte pointed at the mermaid's tail, "she is seriously injured and needs to be put back in the water." He added, feeling concerned for the mermaid, but Aikyle shrugged it off, saying that she would be conscious again in no time. With Aikyle feeling fulfilled and thinking of the honor he would get, they started pulling towards the village. The sun's beam gradually faded as they pulled their boat. Suddenly, the mermaid's tail moved and her eyes faintly opened, tracing her surroundings. Lerte noticed her fine blue eyes as she struggled to stay conscious. Quickly, Lerte, who was scared of sea creatures, felt pity for her and began pouring her water from the sea. In no time, she became stable. "Where are you taking me?" the mermaid asked curiously. "We are taking you to our village," Aikyle rudely replied to the mermaid. "No, you can't do that. Humans are not supposed to see me, unless I wish to be seen," she pleaded, but all that fell on deaf ears. Aikyle was not ready to let her go. "Please," she pleaded again, "I am the princess of my kingdom. If they notice that humans have taken me, they'll stop at nothing until they've destroyed everyone in your village," she said. But whatever the mermaid said sounded like fables to Aikyle. He was fearless. Seeing that the mermaid could be telling the truth, Lerte also tried to convince his friend to let go of the mermaid, but Aikyle was adamant. "I'll make you rich if you let me go," the princess said as strength slowly left her body, but Aikyle didn't listen to her plea. Even when Lerte wanted to push her into the water, Aikyle threatened him that he would push him into the ocean alongside the mermaid, but Aikyle didn't know what he was up against. The shore of their village was in sight and they could see faded images of humans while darkness quietly moved across the sky. Aikyle was filled with happiness that he would be honored above all. Taking a glance at the mermaid, he grinned and anxiously continued to pull the boat. "I will become the greatest," Aikyle said out loudly as if mocking Lerte, but before his words became transient, the water underneath their boat began to bobble, building up high waves, and immediately sank their boat. Furious warriors of the Mermaid Kingdom sent in search of the princess had sunk the boat, seeing that their princess was being held by humans. Immediately the boat sank, the princess fully regained her consciousness and strength. The horrifying expressions on the mermen's faces terrified Lerte. For the first time, Aikyle's boastful nature also disappeared. "Let's take them to the kingdom," the head warrior said with his eyes furrowed. Knowing that they wouldn't return to the world of the humans if they took them to the underwater kingdom, the princess pleaded for them to be released. The head warrior, following the king's command of not letting any prisoner go, refused to listen to the princess. However, after a little persuasion, the warrior agreed to let go of only one of them, urging her to choose between Aikail and Lerte. The princess glided her gaze from Aikail to Lerte. Having a heart of compassion, she wished to save both of them, but she could save only one of them. That moment she thought of how both of them had treated her earlier. Lerte had treated her kindly, he had compassion on her. Meanwhile, Aikail was rude to her. "I'll save this one." The princess held the hand of Lerte. At the words of the princess, the warriors who were eager to take a prisoner back home, held Aikail and swam deep into the ocean. Lerte's heart panted, he wished he could save his friend, he wanted to swim after them but the princess and the head warrior held him back. "Your friend is rude and arrogant, but you are kind and compassionate. That's why I saved you," the princess said to Lerte, who mourned his friend. "Come, I'll take you to your village," the princess said as she held his hand and swam to the shallow part of the ocean, where he could easily swim to the shores where the villagers gathered. "Goodbye," Lerte fearfully muttered as he waved at the mermaid. His mind could hardly process what just happened in the ocean. But he knew he had lost his friend forever. Lerte appeared on the shore completely tired, feeling weak, leaving the villagers in shock. "Where is your partner?" Many asked and got no answer, while others concluded that he was dead. Later that night, as Lerte regained his strength, he narrated Aikail's ordeal to the villagers. Some of those who heard of Aikail's tragic end sympathized with him, while others believed he deserved his fate for being too arrogant and rude. From that time onwards, the story of Lerte's encounter with the mermaid never ceased in the lips of the people of Wama. The moral lesson of this story is to show kindness wherever you find yourself and do not be rude to people simply because you think you are the best. Thank you for watching and listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed the story. Like, comment and subscribe for more amazing stories.